Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It is FBC Radio Live. It's September 5th, and it's the NFL season, John. I'm thrilled. I'm still adjusting to life without Tom Brady. It's gonna take some time. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like it's gonna happen overnight. And the anticipation of his return to Gillette Stadium this weekend isn't helping because the Patriots have been posting stuff about Tom all week, and it's all right. I get it. He's not going to play, but he did say something yesterday, or at least I read it yesterday on his podcast about he's very happy he's not going to have to put that helmet back on again. So John, I think he's actually retired this time. I hate to admit it.
He's also lying. He would love to put that helmet back on. I think he still itches to play.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's like me saying, I really don't look forward to lunch or dinner or tomorrow's breakfast. Yeah, no, he's still itching to play, but he understands it's time. And it appears that there's going to be maybe 2-3 different types of things that happen this year. I don't know if they'll statues are kind of difficult because someone would be commissioned to build it, and it takes a little time. Although, you can fast track some of those things. But yeah, looking forward to that. Seeing Tom Brady on Sunday as part of the first week, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Again, we know Kansas City and Detroit kick things off on Thursday night, so I think everybody's excited for this NFL season, as we always are.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's different, and it's not like I said, this is the first time since like I said, I was 14 years old when he got drafted. So it's been a very, very, very long time since we've watched football without him on the field. And I said it on our Full Press NFL show the other day. It truly now does feel like a changing of the guard. I know Aaron Rodgers is around, but, and trust me, I don't take any pleasure in taking any sort of shots at Aaron Rodgers ever. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't quite hold the same cachet, I guess.
Good word. I love that word.
It just... He's a great quarterback, no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. But Peyton Manning's gone. Tom Brady's gone. I mean, someone did one of those pyramid graphics of like active quarterbacks in their Super Bowls, and it was Patrick Mahomes with 2, and then Stafford, Rodgers, and who am I missing? There's one other person in there that has one. Russell Wilson. Yeah. Thank you. I completely forgot about Russell Wilson. But and that's it. That's it, John. And I'm looking at it.
That's
I'm like,
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm like, wow. Like, obviously, you take Tom off the top of that pile, which he has been for a very, very long time. Like, there hasn't been a active quarterback Super Bowl championship list that didn't include him. For 21 years, because he won the very first year that he took over. So it is going to be weird, but it's exciting in the sense that, like, for the first time, I guess, in my, again, 14 years old, I start watching this guy. I had obviously been a fan of football leading up to that, but certainly not to the extent that I am in that time since, you know what I mean? Because, I got older, you understand the game more, you study the game, obviously, doing it for work, all that stuff. But this is truly like the first time where it's like, wow, like I got to look at this league completely different. And I mean that, John, because it was so easy to default back to, well, what team is Tom Brady playing on? Okay, well, I gotta lean towards them as being a Super Bowl favorite. And it wasn't fandom. It wasn't It wasn't like over the top, like just like blind love for the guy. It was true. More than 50% of the time, John, it was true. He would lead his team to the Super Bowl for the last decade plus. So it's the landscape of the NFL, I think, has changed drastically. And I don't know if we're really going to grasp it until we get, a significant portion significantly through this next season. Because again, John, I mean, yeah, last year was not his or the Bucs' best year, but I mean, 2021, he was the best quarterback in the league. I contend too that, the way I viewed the best quarterback it wasn't fluid. I've gone over this a million times, but I'll do it one more. It wasn't fluid, and I thought Brady pretty much held on to that through the 2021 season. I mean, you can't convince me that he wasn't still the best quarterback in the league after 2021 and what he did. Obviously, with what happened last year, his retirement, Mahomes winning another Super Bowl and MVP, I think that officially passed there. And look, the guy's retired now, so it's Patrick Mahomes' league. But it's crazy to think that like all of a sudden you have that much experience just zapped out of this NFL overnight, pretty much.
The amazing thing about Tom Brady, and there's a lot of those amazing things, is that he appeared in conference championship games as often as a good basketball player would make a free throw. He appeared in Super Bowls as often as a really great basketball player would make field goal attempts, and he won Super Bowls at a rate that would be a good three-point shooter. So, like, he did all of that. So he was always in the discussion. So you're talking about someone with 7 Super Bowls and 3 league MVP. So 10 times in his career, like essentially half of his career, he was either the best player in the league or leading the best team, which then qualifies him as the best player, perhaps, right? So he was always in the discussion. And LeBron's similar to that, right? I mean, LeBron's still a top player in the NBA, and people are saying the Lakers can win the championship. Yes, Anthony Davis is very good, but it's because of LeBron. So the sustained greatness is the most impressive thing. But yeah, now it's about Mahomes and how's his legacy going to build going forward.
Yeah, and look, I mean, obviously, like I said, I'm not going to sell Aaron Rodgers short. He's certainly part of that. He was drafted in 2005, but again, he just doesn't have the. It's crazy to say he doesn't have that star power. It's all relative though, John. Because again, when you compare his career to Tom Brady's, well, yeah, it pales in comparison. But if you compare his to the average NFL quarterback, well, guess what? It dwarfs the average NFL quarterback, and that's why Aaron Rodgers is great. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think obviously, I think the league's pretty open. It's going to be competitive, certainly in the AFC, because again, we look at the Chiefs and certainly Patrick Mahomes doesn't get paid the most. But all these big contracts are going to have some sort of impact on these teams, and a team like Kansas City, who has really maximized his early contract and early success, is starting to see some of that, because we look now and say, okay, well, it's Tuesday, which means, well, Chris Jones is probably not going to be suiting up for week 1. Who knows how long he's going to be out for. It doesn't seem like they're off by much money, but the Chiefs really just don't have a lot of cap space to work with. So we're kind of seeing some of those repercussions. And when does the tide turn a little bit? Because for a long time, John, Brady was the easy lightning rod for casual fans in the NFL. Okay, easy to hate. He was the villain. That was the best part about being a Tom Brady fan, was for the most part he was a villain, and rightfully so, because he crushed the dreams of most everyone that he ran across. Just look at Ryan Clark's campaign lately to try to prop up Aaron Rodgers. Like, does that make sense, John? Did you hear that? Like,
he's always been a Rodgers guy, though.
Well,
and I think,
and I think again, I think a lot of that has to do again with the fact that, well, they lost to the Packers in the Super Bowl, so that kind of justifies their shortcomings. And again, just go back to the last game that Ryan Clark played with the Steelers against the Patriots, and you'll understand where some of that some of that anxiety or animosity, so to speak, kind of comes from. But Kyle asked, did everyone hate Tom Brady after his 3rd Super Bowl ring? I don't think I think there was tiredness of the success, but the hate really didn't come until 2007. And I think in hindsight, it's a lot of misguided hate, but the vitriol and then the subsequent 16-0, run was really what turned the tide for most people. And again, like I said, the whole Spygate thing, I mean, I'm not going to rehash that, but that's something that again, in hindsight, you look at it and it's kind of silly. But it created this narrative. So again, I'm not trying to absolve them. I mean, we've talked about this before. Belichick arrogantly ignored what essentially amounts to a memo because you know what I mean. Like, and again, I don't want people to sit here and say, "Oh, well, you being a polit." No, I'm just talking about what happened. You know, it is what it is. Like, I'm not saying they didn't do anything. It was just I felt it was more arrogance than some systemic cheating. You know what I mean? Like the word cheating kind of took on a life of its own, John. Like, is every rule breaking cheating?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going,
Well,
62 in a 55-mile zone, technically you're speeding, but hopefully they're not
exactly.
pulling people over all the time because
Right.
no one would get anywhere. I think too with Brady by 2007, it became like he was too perfect. Now he's with Giselle. It's like, okay, enough, dude. We know you're awesome, and it wasn't him pushing that. It's just how he lived his life. But it became almost like Derek Jeter. I always compared Jeter and Brady in some sense that way. It was like, okay, neither one really ever said anything. They were very senatorial, not controversial in terms of weighing into politics or any of that stuff. And they're actually friends because Jeter did play at Michigan. He's a little bit older than Brady, but it became like, and he was around for a while. Both guys had 20-year careers, so at some point you're like, enough already. The interesting thing is Jordan never got that type of hate because he saved the league. Or not that he saved the league, he was the league.
Yeah.
Like, by the end of his career, I'm like, the league should just pay him. He's that important to the league. But there wasn't hate towards Michael Jordan because I quite frankly think people were frightened of him.
Well, and there just wasn't the access to him as as there is now.
Yep.
And I know Rich Paul made that comment recently that I'm not going to say, I guess when in terms of NBA, he might be correct because at first I thought he meant like sports star. I'm like, no, I mean, you look, anything LeBron's done over the course of being, playing a lot of the same things that LeBron has dealt with over the years because of his success are the same exact things that Brady have done. I mean, I'll still, very, very much argue that LeBron is looking up to Brady in the grand scheme of things, but in the sense that they are very similar in how their careers have not only played out lengthwise, but their success and their greatness. I mean, that's the thing. So there are a lot of similarities. So yeah, but when it comes to Jordan, I mean, people weren't following him around with iPhones and checking in on what he was doing, at the casino or whatever. So to that, I would definitely say that that's probably why. But even then, John, who was? I mean, I guess Magic Bird was the the big star pull right before him and everything like that. But I mean, him combined with the rise of the Nike shoe and all that stuff. I mean, there's so many factors that created this and has created this bubble, so to speak, this force field around Jordan that's never really going to be penetrated.
He's the biggest athlete in the history of this country. Not necessarily, and in a sense, I would say the second most important one. I always put Jackie Robinson in a class unto himself because that was not just sports, that was obviously society. But in terms of importance to the league, you can make a case that
they're still making Air Jordans.
Michael Jordan,
and he hasn't played in 20 years.
He's still, he's still got the biggest brand of any athlete in America. Exactly, he hasn't played in 20 years. I mean, my 7-year-old grandniece wears Air Jordans. She likes Space Jam. With Michael Jordan more than LeBron James, and I still speak to her even though she has that opinion. But Tiger Woods I would put up there as well because I mean he basically made golf cool, right? But it was always kind of this dodgy sport. And here comes Tiger Woods, but yeah, the Jordan thing too is you're right. There wasn't social media. There wasn't 24/7 of constant news on these guys. There weren't all these debate shows. I mean, look, ESPN and Fox Sports 1, it seems like 30% of the time they're talking about LeBron James, if not more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there wasn't that type of forum like we have now. So, without question, guys like Brady and LeBron have had to deal with more than Jordan had to.
Well, and that's, I'm going to go back to something Kyle said too, going back to this because, this started talking about Mahomes. And I think we're seeing a little bit different reaction to him. I think people are starting to kind of get worn out, and a lot of it has to do with the coverage of him. I think we saw last year, especially more and more outside of the core rivalry fans. I mean, Patriots fans, Bengals fans, Bills fans, there's always going to be a back and forth between, because they all at one point or another went at it, obviously, but when I say Patriots fans, it's like Patriots / Bucks with Brady, you know what I mean? That type of situation.
Mhm.
So, but it's kind of extending beyond that, just core of teams. Like I think like teams that don't really have much to do with the Chiefs are starting to be like, all right, guys, it's an incomplete pass. Let's calm down here. You know what I mean? I think there's more of that going around. And look, trust me, I'm at the front of that charge there because I'm exhausted with it. It's draining, really, is what it is. Because not that it's, and the reaction is always, well, you're threatened by it. No. I just, whether you believe me or not, I think it does a great disservice to the game, because the more we do this, the more it just I don't know, it just cheapens what's come before. You know what I mean? Like everyone's like, "Oh, this is the greatest pass. This is that. This is that. This is the other." And it's like, no, you're kind of basing it all on like football history in the last couple of years. You know what I mean? But that's a product of how we cover the game too. What we see on TV and all that.
True. Yeah, I mean the coverage is incredible. Just the technical aspect of the coverage,
Well, I mean more so the commentary. So like you brought up the debate shows, and that fosters a this or that mentality. And the thing is I don't think any argument is this or that in sports. I mean, let alone anything else. I mean, I'm not even talking about politics or life or whatever, but sports. I mean, how many this or that answers do you get? It's never this or that. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of gray area. But what these debate shows foster, John, is, well, you take one side and you take the other, and it's entertainment. So, well, but that trickles down to the average fans and their commentary and what they talk about at the bar and so on and so forth. So, yeah, it's I don't know. We'll see how long. Obviously, if the Chiefs win again, I mean, obviously that's winning fosters hate from teams that don't have it, and I get that. I understand completely. It's like you want what they have. I get it. Trust me, I've been on both sides of it, John.
Yep.
So, like, I get that, but I also think that to get to the level of hatred that Brady reached, there's got to be some sort of extenuating circumstances. It just so happens that with Brady, there were those extenuating circumstances, and he was just, lapping the field. I mean, Peyton Manning won 2 Super Bowls, went to 4, and he's generally loved, right? I think everyone's like, oh, it's Peyton Manning, his first family of football, blah, 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 blah. Everyone loves Peyton, especially now, Hey, look.
Well, the interesting thing with that stuff, sorry to interrupt you, but the Peyton Manning, what's weird about Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, and there's been books written about it, but Peyton Manning, again, was the royal family of football. Like you said perfectly, the number 1 overall pick, probably the best quarterback prospect in 15 years. But yet he sells himself as the everyman, Chevrolet, chicken parm, like the Oshuck, married his college sweetheart. Tom Brady, who was 199th pick, he is kind of put forth a brand of very high-end stuff, right? From a lot of watches, Aston Martin, cars. Is Aston Martin or Aston Martin?
It's Aston Martin. Come on.
Okay.
Come on. Flash yourself up, John.
Well, you know what? Italians make the best cars, so I don't even know. I can talk about Ferraris and Lamborghinis and everything else. This is coming from someone who doesn't drive. But you know how Patrick Mahomes benefits? Because I think people are more hateful towards his wife and brother. Like, so they're kind of like shields for Patrick Mahomes. Like, Mahomes out of the 3 is like, yeah, this guy seems like a likable guy. His wife seems a little off, and his brother's really off. So, like, they catch a lot of the shrapnel instead of Mahomes.
Between that and I also think the overlap with Brady, because this isn't like Brady retired 5 years ago and then Patrick Mahomes started doing what he was doing. No, a lot of this was overlap, and a lot of people, I think, certainly I'm sure in 2018, wanted Patrick Mahomes to win just because it's like we're tired of seeing Brady. Like, think about that. But by the time you get to 2018, the Patriots are on the cusp of going to the third straight Super Bowl. It would be their fourth in 5 years. Brady is still winning, and it's like all of a sudden you got this kid who comes out, those 50 touchdowns. It's like, how many people outside of the Patriots fans were rooting for the Chiefs? I'd say a large number, probably not including like Raiders fans. Like Raiders fans are probably,
Right.
but then again, Raiders fans are probably very conflicted because they still wake up in the middle of the night thinking about 2001. Well, technically 2002 January, but still, I think they're ingrained hate, excuse me, hatred for the Chiefs. It's like the Patriots and Jets. Like in no other circumstance. Like if you're going to ask me who am I going to root for, the Jets or the Giants? The Giants. 100 times out of 100 because I hate the Jets, even though you know what I mean? Like there's just that ingrained hatred. So I think outside of Patriots and then like Raiders fans, no one was rooting for the Patriots because we're so sick of it. 2019, obviously, Patrick Mahomes finally wins. He's the next up and coming star. Is he on pace to be the GOAT? Blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? Tom Brady goes to another conference and rains on his parade once again. So once again, Patrick Mahomes is the victim, and he's the sympathetic figure in all of this, John. And obviously, I think this win, coupled with Brady's retirement, and I think people, coming out of the woodwork and saying, "Oh, finally, he's gone, he's retired," that might last for a little bit, but we'll see what happens this season and as we move forward.
And they also played for completely different coaches, both great coaches, but Bill Belichick was Darth Vader. Andy Reid's like your grandfather, like this big kind of lovable guy who talks about eating cheeseburgers. So, obviously Andy Reid more likable than say Bill Belichick. So that kind of ties into it as well. But yeah, now we look at Mahomes as a hunted rather than the hunter, right? Because now Brady's gone. So now these other quarterbacks, whether it's Burrow or Josh Allen, who are trying to win their first Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers, old man Rodgers, who's competing against everybody, and maybe he'll break through and win Super Bowl number 2. Let's only hope.
Hey, Brady gave some very encouraging words, and I mean, very deep insight. I mean, the guy, like that's the thing. I love. This is my new favorite thing, John. Is all these haters, quote unquote, over the years are like actually for the first time listening to this guy like speak, how eloquent he can be and insightful he can be. I'm like, wow, I never realized that. Yeah, well, because you were blinded by hatred this whole time. So now you're seeing what we've seen this whole time. Like this guy's like they played that conference call, John, or they shared that clip, one of the many Brady things they've been doing all week, but his first conference call after he got drafted. And for all the full, like, look, Belichick and Brady and Belichick, I mean, they enhanced each of each other's careers to the max amount. But no, Belichick didn't create Tom Brady, and Tom Brady did not create Bill Belichick. Because if you sit here and listen to Tom Brady speak in his first conference call as a 23-year-old, he kind of pretty much talks the exact Patriot way, and you can't tell me that there was enough time between when he was drafted and when he had that conference call for him to be brainwashed, so to speak, into believing the Patriot way. So this guy was always who he was. He just needed someone to maximize his talent. He pulled, absolutely pull all that talent out of him and put him up in a great situation. That was Belichick, and vice versa. I mean, it's the same thing with Belichick if you look at it from his point of view. So to me, Brady was always that guy, despite what people want to say, now. But you sit here and you listen to him speak and you listen to him, say his thing. And like, it's crazy to think like if people actually listen to him, John, they wouldn't hate the guy. I mean, the guy's never said like, gone out and taken some pot shot at anyone. But again, there was so much to, that goes along with it, the winning and the quote unquote scandals that just made people really hate the guy for 20 years.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, look, he's my favorite quarterback, my favorite football player ever. It is eminently more, I wouldn't say hateable, but dislikable, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
Because he's out there. I mean, he's not afraid to push the envelope. Brady's, like I said, always been kind of a milk toast, but, kind of more of a, like I said, senatorial. Like he doesn't rock the boat all that much. Maybe I like Tampa Tom more than Patriot Tom in a sense that he was more of himself. I think he was kind of obviously buttoned up when he was here. It almost felt like a kid who went to Catholic school, a private school for 12 years, and then finally got to college and could let his hair grow and act up a little bit and have fun. I mean, who can ever forget the celebration after winning the Super Bowl in Tampa? Like, people that hated Tom Brady were friends of mine. They're like, wow, that's awesome. We love that. It's almost like, now he seems like a good guy, one of us, more than just this scripted, created character.
Well, he kind of made reference to some of that in his advice to Rodgers, because he's kind of said that, like, as great, he had obviously his time with the Patriots and in New England. I mean, he could never trade that in. He said all these positive things, but just time tends to, like you have all the and he didn't mean it in a negative way, and I'm sure some media member in the Boston area is spinning this in a very negative way, but I think he said the all the things that have built up over the years, all the history, good and bad. I mean, this isn't like a specific, like, oh, I can't believe I've been with, I need to get away from Belichick. No, this is just the collectiveness of it. It's like working a job for 20 years, John, and sometimes you have all that kind of baggage that goes along with it. Then you go to a new team, as he says, and you're kind of free of all that, and positively, but you can kind of free your mind of that, and that's why Brady thinks that Rodgers going to the Jets and kind of freeing himself of all that past history, good and bad, with the Packers, will kind of free him up to have a good season. So we'll see. I'm sure you'll be happy about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they're friends, actually. I mean,
but
also rivals as well. But I think all the quarterbacks are kind of like friends in the sense that there's only so many of them, and they're kind of wired all the same way, and all of that stuff. Remember Tiger Woods had some kind of relationship with Roger Federer, because who could understand Roger Federer better than Tiger Woods, and vice versa? Right. Like, they dominated the sport. So yeah, I'm sure they have that, and it kind of lifts a lot of that tension away that Rodgers dealt with in Green Bay. Now it's a new thing, and now he almost feels like he was accepted, wanted, recruited, kind of like Brady was. Because Brady, neither one of these guys coming out of high school were big recruits. Rodgers went to junior college, Butte Junior College, to go on his way to California. So yeah, now they obviously they're two of the greatest and one of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time. But now they feel like they're not necessarily pampered, but wanted more than they were necessarily in their first place.
Well, I don't know if it was necessarily wanted with Brady.
For a better word, right?
I think it was just the free, like, when he suited up for the Buccaneers, he wasn't thinking about anything that happened with the Patriots in the past and some of the baggage that may or may not come with it. Being a part of the Patriots and a part of their history. And again, we can sit here and debate the validity of Deflategate and all this other nonsense on another day. But the point is like, to free himself of not dealing with that, or just, the drama, good, like I said, good and bad. This isn't just all about him getting away from the quote unquote negative. This is about just kind of giving your mind a break from holding on to nearly 20 years of that history with the Patriots, to all of a sudden go and just kind of play a more free way, like, oh, I'm with the Bucks now. It doesn't matter what happened with the Patriots. All that stuff's over with. And again, I think that's what he's alluding to with Rodgers and the Jets. But as Kyle said, Rodgers goes from his bad history in Green Bay to the Jets' bad history. So we'll see. That's movable force versus I think I did this before. I completely screwed up that saying, and you know what? I'm not even going to try it. Unstoppable force.
So you made fun of me for Austin or Aston Martin, but
Well, thank you, because I think by now people had forgotten about that, but you've given them a reminder, so I appreciate that, and I'll end it on this. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Tomorrow we're going to start we'll do our NFC division preview. Thursday we'll do our AFC division previews, and of course give our Thursday night picks for Chiefs and Lions. And then Friday, well, you know what it is, we give our picks and give our discussion on every game that happens on Sunday. So thank you everyone, and we'll talk to you then.